Hello and welcome to the IGN Doctor Who Videocast, where we'll be discussing this week's episode, Asylum of the Daleks, in very spoilerific details. So if you haven't watched the episode yet, you might as well stop watching now and then come back later. I'm Tom Butler and I'm IGN's resident Doctor Who fan. Joining me this week we've got Matt Risley, IGN's Doctor Who reviewer, Blair Mowat, who's IGN's video producer, and Doctor Who author Ollie Smith. So, Asylum of the Daleks, written by Stephen Moffat. It's season premiere. Was it good to have Doctor Who back in your life?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Been too long.
Been too long, yeah. Only 5 episodes this season, or this half season. Is that going to be enough to keep you going?
Yeah, I think with less of an arc, I think it should be a bit more concise in that way, each episode.
I know, keep it an event every week.
Yeah, and they're very different from what I can see is coming up.
Well, they said they want to make each one like a movie poster, right? And they obviously
Yeah.
created the movie posters to go with it. And I think Asylum of the Dalek did really stand out as a big, epic,
It was
sweeping
epic,
production.
yeah.
I mean, it
Yeah.
was really impressive, I thought. So, how have you survived the off season? Did you enjoy Pond Life? Did you enjoy the mini episodes?
Yeah, I thought they were very funny. It's nice to see Chris Chibnall doing some comedy after Torchwood.
Yeah. And nice to see an Ood on the loo.
Definitely nice to see an Ood, yeah. And that's the first time we've seen. Is that the first time we've seen an Ood in this universe, with the Matt Smith universe?
You tell me.
I think it is, isn't it?
I think it might be.
I think it might be, yeah, because Stephen Moffat didn't tend to use many of the Russell T Davies monsters in his sort of his Doctor Who series. Yeah.
So it's quite difficult to nail that season opening to come in with a big enough bang, but I think Asylum of the Daleks really did that. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree.
I think it's appropriate it comes out just after Dark Knight Rises, because it's the Doctor coming out of retirement again after his keeping a low profile. He's tackling the bigger stuff.
It's nice that they referenced that. You know,
Yeah.
and they kind of there was a bit of continuity there, yeah.
And Stephen Moffat, famously not a big fan of the Daleks. I know he had a big. There was an interview where he said that he wanted it to make them scary again. Kids were taking cuddly ones to bed with them. I mean, do you think it was he's gone the right way with the Daleks this time?
They were scarier.
Yeah.
I thought they could have been more scary. I thought the zombie Daleks with the eye stalks were genuinely scary, but they were scarier than the Daleks themselves, probably.
I think the whole kind of zombie skeleton thing definitely.
Yeah,
It was pretty creepy.
it was pretty creepy. Yeah, Radio Times cover was brilliant.
Yeah, that was awesome.
But we didn't get to see enough of the special weapons Dalek. You know, it's just like tucked away there, and you wanted to see more.
It did seem like a bit of a wasted opportunity.
And they were very dusty as well, so you couldn't really see, like, if there was like a black Dalek, you couldn't really see it was black. It was covered in dust. I wanted to see all the colours.
It's a bit of a greatest hits episode in a variety of ways. You've got all the different Daleks. You've also got, going back to the Robo-Men, you've got the Parliament of Daleks, which kind of harks back to the Emperor and his stuff back from the Troughton days, which I know Moffat's a big fan of. And then you've got the conversion of humans, which not only goes back to the finale of Eccleston, but what was going on in Revelation of the Daleks was a really excellent body horror kind of Sixth Doctor story that also features a human head trapped inside a glass Dalek.
Obviously, we talked about the Parliament of the Daleks there. It was quite an epic shot there. I mean, it seems like the production levels seem to have gone up like massively. Like, it all seemed very convincing.
Yeah, it felt like an expensive episode. You know, I'd be interested to see how that progresses throughout the series and whether there's a cheap episode. But yeah, it felt really big budget. Yeah.
And do you think it's sort of setting the tone? It was quite dark, like obviously they went for the horror theme. Do you think that's setting the tone for the rest of the series?
I think it's the Doctor that is the most changed, apparently. Obviously, I think we're going to be dealing with how he's dealt with travelling on his own for a while without the kind of moral compass that his companions have. And I think he's essentially seeding the ground to compare and contrast what his companions expect of their hero and what he feels like he needs to do to get the job done.
I think they were saying, was it about 10 months that he's been away?
Well, for them.
Yeah.
So were the Daleks scary enough? I mean, personally, I've never been that afraid of Daleks, but I think he did quite a good job of. I think obviously the Asylum setting helped, but I don't know if it was scary enough. What do you think?
I was definitely scared by Daleks when I was younger a little bit. Not as much as the Cybermen. The Cybermen used to freak me out more. But yeah, they were definitely scarier.
I was never really scared by the Daleks because they have they were kind of a one-note monster, and so when you're dealing with cold, calculating killers and they're constantly not shooting the Doctor, it's very hard to get a bit scared. But insane Daleks, I think, is something that's it's scary because you pity them, I think, and you're suddenly empathising with the things trapped inside. I think when Amy had her hallucination and she's seeing them all, how they apparently imagine themselves as weird people and stuff like that, suddenly seeing what Oswin is dealing with inside seems to be something all the Daleks are coping with. I think that makes it scary. They're not necessarily scary in the fact that you worry that they're going to exterminate the Doctor or his companions, and I don't think that's ever really something any viewer is ever scared of. It's you're scared of becoming one of them, which I think is something the Cybermen had always dealt with, but not something the Daleks had really tackled before.
Sorry, go on.
Sorry, I really like that line, you know, when they were basically saying about, like, why, he said to them, why have you put them in a prison in the first place? And they were saying kind of it's to do with hating someone, and they can't really kill something that, you know, that has so much hate in it, and that's why they have never killed the Doctor. There was a little allusion to that.
Yeah.
Maybe they've been willingly, the connection between them is so strong that they wouldn't want to bump him off.
I think the whole show had a very kind of 60s comic book kind of air to it, and what I really liked about the old 60s stuff was the Daleks had a bit more personality, not just in terms of the fact that they have a concept of beauty. They're a bit more humane. They become more like robots towards the latter half of Doctor Who, but you know, they're different. There's a stupid Dalek. My favourite scene from a William Hartnell Dalek is the chase, where a Dalek comes out of the sand and is coughing and spluttering because all the sand's got in its grill. But it's nice to see different Daleks and kind of spot that and like that one, or which is very hard to do when they're all faceless drones.
And talking of different Daleks, obviously we had the drones, which were the sort of Daleks, the humans that had been infested with the nanites, or I guess the nanotech, yeah, and turned into sort of half human, half Daleks. I mean, was that how did you find that? I mean, I thought it was quite cool with the thing coming out the forehead, but. Yeah. And also the zombie ones as well. Obviously there was undead ones. I thought it was quite a cool way of making them much more mobile, because obviously there's ladders and things. Like, what were they going to do?
Are we really
otherwise?
going to the Daleks and stairs?
Well, you know, it's a bit early in the show, but yeah, I mean, I'm going there. But zombie Daleks, at that moment I was just like, I'm having that. Yes, I'm having that. But yeah, talking of, again, the Daleks, obviously we'll come to Oswin a bit later, but towards the end of the episode, she wipes the memories of the Doctor from the Daleks in the Asylum, and that then translates into wiping the memory against all the Daleks. I mean, what sort of repercussions is that going to have?
I liked how it tied into the end of the last series, when, you know, with the whole Doctor Who finally kind of answered that question, tying it back into that. I like that.
Do you think that's the answer?
Maybe.
I think it's kind of justified by when Oswin is talking about how the Daleks have grown stronger because of fear of the Doctor. But at the same time, I don't know, like, I think it'll be interesting to see how the Daleks evolve not knowing who the Doctor is, but I'm quite excited. We've seen the Doctor quite a few times tell his enemies to look him up, and he solves a lot of situations by simply his reputation. And so not having a reputation, it'll be interesting to see how he gets out of situations that have kind of hinged on that before.
Yeah, he is in the habit, though, of destroying what he thinks is every Dalek ever, though, and then suddenly, like, 1 billion Daleks appear about 6 months later.
He seems to have given up.
So once he does that again, they'll probably quickly learn that they are all going to get, you know, completely destroyed every time he turns out.
Let's talk about Oswin then. So that was obviously the biggest surprise of the episode. So obviously we know Jenna Louise Coleman, who plays Oswin, is going to be the new companion, and that starts at Christmas. But I don't think anyone was expecting to see her in episode 1 of series 7. Like, obviously we've got 5 more episodes with Amy and Rory as companions. But I just thought she was awesome. I just thought, like, she just took over as soon as she came over, and like Matt was saying before we recorded this, like, you soon forgot that, like, even Amy and Rory were in the episode, because she just took over. I mean,
I felt a little bit guilty, but seriously, after, you know, a couple of minutes, I just completely forgot the other two were there. Yeah. She was kind of witty, she was clever, slightly bi-curious, which was interesting.
That was interesting. I mean, that's a good way to get nerds excited, I guess. We're a bit bi-curious, and also flirting with Rory as well. It's quite nice to get
very
Rory.
Flirty in general, very different, really full of personality, and very, very different to Amy.
It's nice to see someone being friendly to Rory for once.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, to have a hard time of it.
Especially when Amy's being so mean to him as well, you know, he needed a friend, didn't he?
And she can bake souffle as well, so...
Yeah.
She thinks she can.
Yeah. So, I mean, did you see the twist coming with her?
I think it was seeded. I think it was seeded quite a few times throughout. I
the milk was a pretty big giveaway.
The
But
milk
to be
was
honest, I didn't really take on it because I was just enjoying
Yeah.
having Doctor Who back so much. I was just kind of letting it sort of.
And
brush
he'd
all
keep
over.
asking how the nanites weren't affecting her and stuff like that. I expected it to be a twist for the viewer. I wasn't expecting the Doctor to be quite so surprised as he was at the time, because he seemed to have cottoned on fairly early on. If you look at the questions that he asked.
Yeah, because he's never fully convinced about the whole story, and you could tell that quite early on as well. And I thought it was quite smart that she was flirting with Rory, but then Amy was never that bothered or never really got involved with that side of things, and it was kind of like you were getting her, he was getting her on your side. So, but I think it set it up quite nicely, because obviously there's a whole sort of, there could be a sense that the dread of Amy and Rory leaving, but now that we've met Oswin, or whatever she ends up being called now, then we've got something else to look forward to, I guess.
I think the Doctor's going to be in good hands.
Yes, definitely.
I think the only thing that surprised me more than her being a Dalek and then everything happening from there was then kind of killing her off.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Do you think they were going to un-Dalek her?
No.
Or she'd come out to be a tiny little person. No,
Oh, but it's such a shame if they didn't find a way though to undalek her. If she is that, you know, if she is Oswin.
So they killed her off though? That's the question, isn't it? Obviously there was missiles and the planet got blown up and blah blah blah. But if she's definitely the companion, she's definitely coming back in some capacity. Will she be Oswin, or do you think she'll be a relative, or?
I hope she's not a relative. They've done that so many times before. It's like, oh yeah, I've got that cousin that worked at Canary Wharf, and it's just like, no.
See, I was expecting it to be a River Song kind of thing, where the Doctor knows how she dies before travelling with her, but she does say that it's her first time travelling when she crash landed, so that seems to be...
He's got a time machine though, right? He could just go before and...
Well, it depends whether it's a fixed point in time, but then he saved Lindsay Duncan in Whiskers of Mars, didn't he? So, he saved other people as well, like in the Fires of Pompeii one, he saved some people, didn't he? So Small people, yeah. So it depends whether Oswin matters enough, I don't know. But then she looks at the camera and she goes, remember.
Exactly, remember me,
Has she already met him and she knows that this is all going to happen and she's playing it as if she doesn't know him? That's the question.
Do you reckon she was breaking the fourth wall then? Because I saw some people kind of...
Yeah, I don't know whether it's a kind of, bit of a Tom Baker wink to the camera, or whether it's, sort of, I don't know, we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I just hope they don't do it as a relative. I think that's my main beef with that. But I think basically we're all very excited to see her come back for Christmas. However they bring her back, I'm sure there'll be a way of doing it. So looking forward to that. But let's talk about Amy and Rory and the ponds. So obviously we found out that they'd split kind of during Pond Life, which was the mini episodes that they broadcast. But obviously at the start of the episode they are divorcing. Was that a surprise?
I think it's a good thing. Because my problem with Amy and Rory, although I loved them, their sort of arc sort of seemed to sort of never sort of go anywhere, because they were always relatively content with each other, and there was a little bit of tension with the Doctor and stuff, but that was quite repetitive. So it's nice to kind of shake it all up and be like, yeah, we've split up.
And I think you have to do that, because the Doctor loves to fix people, and he likes to take damaged people on his travels and fill the holes that they have in their life. And yeah, so if Amy and Rory were too happy and too content, then there'd be no reason for the Doctor to want them to travel with him, let alone the other way around.
Yeah, I just wanted it to last a little bit longer. Give us a few more, episodes.
Yeah, it felt like it could have been resolved a bit later on, a couple of episodes down the line. But I tell you, one thing I did enjoy about it was the fact that it gave Rory a few more things to actually do this episode. He wasn't. He had some adventuring of his own to do, which I thought was quite nice.
Rory.
Yeah,
Rolling around on the floor.
And his moment with the egg, well, the dome or the whatever it was, then the egg thing, I thought that was really good, really well handled. I think they both did really well in this episode. I think they often get overlooked for what they bring to the show, but
there's a lot of baggage there. It's nice to see it acknowledged. I mean, I think and the episodes have just been so jam-packed, the last half a series and this episode. It's really not had the chance to kind of stop and breathe, and I kind of wish that we had a few more minutes of a pause for thought, especially with all the stuff they need to talk about, and otherwise it seems fairly kind of, these are big things that have happened to them, and to not kind of acknowledge how big they are would be a shame, I think.
But did you feel that the reason for their split, obviously Amy being unable to have children following the stuff at Demon's Run, was that well handled? Did it feel appropriate for Doctor Who?
I'm not sure. I think it was a pretty big theme for what is essentially, what kids are going to be watching as well as adults. I thought that maybe the whole kind of arc of it was quite rushed, but the way they handled it and the kind of interaction between the two, I thought that was great. I think they both pulled it off really well.
And I think that's actually a really nice kind of grounding issue. It's much more easy to empathise with a traumatic thing like that than it is that your baby is now 200 years old and
yeah, because they do have a daughter. That's the interesting thing about it. So
yeah,
need to get her back.
Because the emotional issues of what were going on last series with Amy being a clone and stuff, it was very hard to kind of get your head around before you could start empathising, whereas this is kind of taking it right back down to earth.
Yeah.
Obviously Amy got some quite nice moments as well. I quite like this scene where she's walking down the corridor with the Doctor and he's explaining that she's been taken over by the nanotechnology and
we had that conversation 10 minutes ago, yeah.
Which I thought was really nice. But then also the moment where she goes into the room and it's like a dream sequence. It felt very Twin Peaks for me, with the dancing.
Yeah,
that was definitely a bit of a cheering moment for me as well. But do you think for Amy and Rory, are we being weaned off them at this point? Obviously, they're not happy with adventuring.
It seems like the Doctor's trying to wean them off him. I'm not sure if the viewer is necessarily, because obviously they're in all the episodes. So I think maybe that's going to be a theme is the Doctor trying to let go and not being able to, and maybe something serious is going to be needed for that to have a line drawn under it.
There was that little tete-a-tete between the Doctor and Amy when he was saying, oh, maybe you'll outlive me, and then she kind of said it in return, and that certainly felt like they were sowing the seeds that something was going to happen and she's not going to be there, or one of them is going to be there in the future.
Well, let's just talk about the ending then. Obviously, Oswin with the breaking the fourth wall, telling obviously the viewers or the Doctor to remember her, but then also on the flip side, the Daleks then forgetting about the Doctor completely. I thought that was quite a nice sort of juxtaposition of the two themes. But do you think there's going to be from there any sort of overarching storyline for the rest of the series? Obviously, we've got the 50th anniversary next year. Are we going to see the Daleks come back in big fashion?
I think the Doctor's still tying up loose ends from the last series. He's still trying to fade into the background. I think this is just him turning a failure into a success from his point of view. It seems like he's happy with that. But he also seems to be a bit of a manipulator. He's getting lots of shades of Sylvester McCoy about him at the moment, with fixing his companions' social lives without them noticing and being quite cold and calculating and fairly manipulative.
Yeah.
Excellent. So obviously, Matt, you reviewed it for the site and you gave it
8.5.
8.5 out of 10. I mean, if we were gonna, we all agree on that.
I think that's pretty fair. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was one of the better episodes that I've seen recently. But I'm definitely very excited. Obviously, next week we've got Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, which as a big Jurassic Park fan is very exciting for me. What do you think we can expect from Dinosaurs on a Spaceship?
Gonna go out on a limb.
Yeah.
Maybe. No, dinosaurs?
Dinosaurs, maybe? It looks like it's going to be a fun episode. Obviously, we've got Mark Williams joining the cast. We've got 2 robots. It looks like it's going to be a pretty good episode. So
I think a lot of it hangs on the CGI and whether they can pull off the dinosaur CGI, because there's nothing worse than bad dinosaur CGI.
Nothing worse, no. Let's just hope they didn't spend all the budget this week and they've got some left over for next week.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
But thanks for joining us. You can join us again next week for when we'll be discussing Dinosaurs on a Spaceship. But as always, stay tuned to IGN for all the latest Doctor Who news.
This ship contains the most precious cargo.
The ship's coming through the atmosphere.
The creatures on board this ship are not objects to be sold or traded.
Who sent you?
That's my dad. What's going on?
The ship's been boarded before.
You think I will punish those who get in my way?
I'm launching the missiles.
Sorry, what was your name again?
Whatever's down there is coming this way.
Queen Nefertiti of Egypt.
What is it?
Dinosaurs on a spaceship.